Atlanta has a long history as a hub for spoken word and lyrical art. The New York Times has referred to Atlanta as hip-hop's center of gravity, citing the rich culture of soul, R&B, and hip-hop that has been front and center since the late 80s.
Now do me a favor and tell me your favorite artist. If your favorite ain't no hater, they gon' tell you that they favor me.
In conjunction to this vibrant music scene, Atlanta is home to a thriving community for spoken word and lyrical poetry. The existence of this community cannot be reduced to the work of a single individual, but we would be remiss to not highlight the work of individuals including Theresa Davis.
And I take community very, very seriously, so I am taking this very, very seriously. We've moved twice this year. We don't want to move again, but if we have to, we will, and I will keep this community going because this is very important for people's voices, for people's hearts. And if it had not been for spaces like Java Monkey, Clitorati, Urban Grind, these places, I don't feel like I would have been able to deal with all the things I was dealing with as well.
For the past 14 years, Davis has been an active member in the local scene in Atlanta, performing regularly at open mic events such as Java Monkey Speaks, and co-founding events such as Art Amok. Her work, in conjunction with the efforts of others, has made for one of the most intersectional spoken word communities in Atlanta.
So literally, poetry saved my life. My father passed away 17 years ago now. And the last conversation he had with me was, why are you trying to disappear? I can see you. You're not living your life. You're not loving who you want to love. You're not doing all the things you need to do. And this man never yelled, never screamed or whatever. And then a week later, he had a massive stroke. And me being the oldest child of the family, I had to make the decision to take him off life support. So I found myself for years dealing with survivor's guilt, right? Like I made a decision. You know, they said 13%, but it's a medical practice, and what if? But I did what I did. What happened, happened. We had the memorial service for him. It was a party. It lasted for over 24 hours. It was fucking beautiful. And then after that, immediately I started going to open mics. And the first open mic I went to was Java Monkey. And I went every week, and I had something new to share every week. And after about like 2 months, Kodak, who was the host, was like, I want you to feature. And I was like, awesome, what's that? And then he was like, oh, I should probably write more poems, I don't know. And then, you know, I started performing there.
How do you police an idea? You put it in a random corner of your mind, call it a city, and flood it with distractions like pizza, or television, or crack cocaine. You fill it with other ideas that are a little bit like it. Construct trains of thought whose tracks bisect the area, and you call that side the bad side. So what's really cool about the community here is that there's like a bunch of different like poetry spaces. And since that's the medium I work with most often, it's really cool because you get to see like a large like variety of different like styles or like deliveries or just kind of like avenues that you can take poetry down. I have a friend, their poetry style is remixes the classic poetry canon. It's always really cool to be in these different spaces and hear all of these different ideas because it allows me to come up with ideas based off of it, and everyone's done things or published books, and so I can always ask them for advice and they're always willing to offer that advice.
It's happened to all of us. Scrolling through our newsfeed, dodging Game of Thrones spoilers, like some kind of half-assed Neo dodging a hail of bullets in the First Nations, all while trying not to spill your coffee as you take part in the most important ritual of modern American daily life. Catching up on your SpongeBob memes, recipes you'll never actually make, and pictures of other people's cats. And then, it happens. You catch a glimpse of something that doesn't quite belong, but is all too familiar. 2 students killed, 4 more wounded, freeze.
I did my first out-of-state tour this year. I connected to people through going to poetry shows who connected me to the people who I went on that tour with. By doing slam, I ended up going to a place where I got to meet poets from other cities. You end up getting in front of the right person sees you, you book a show, someone's like, hey, I think your stuff's really dope, you should come over to my open mic. And then you keep doing that, you make these connections, you get features. As far as growing, though, I think that's really what's the most important thing here, is if you go to a lot of other open mics, you get exposed to other artists' styles. You gain all these things for your toolbox, but also if you support the other artists and let them know what you think of their work, you get a chance to kind of give each other feedback and hone each other. It's I don't know how to put it, but it's like, it's like a sharpening set. It's like two knives sharpening each other.
How does an idea die? How long do you have to police an idea until it is no longer a threat? Or before you admit that it was always just your imagination? How do you police your imagination? I mean, I guess you don't. When the police works for you, makes you feel safe, protected, stops the ideas from getting a little bit too radical, from asking for anything outlandish like, hey, please don't murder me, or hey, don't call my side of the tracks the bad part of town, and you won't. I mean, why would you? It's not like we were ever anything more than niggers anyway. For me personally, it is a way to connect to an audience, or to connect an audience to an idea. Oftentimes I think of myself as kind of like a medium or a guide, trying to connect audience members or whoever's hearing my stuff to a very specific idea that I am trying to encapsulate in my work.
I had encountered a lot of other artists, and I love our local art scene. But for me as a poet, I kind of first showed up to poetry hoping to save myself. I got to a point where I realized that my poetry could start helping other people. And as much as I went into poetry, I guess wanting to feel like these heavy feelings I was carrying around, that I wasn't the only person who felt that way. When I realized I made other people feel that way, it's when I really kind of dove into the poetry community. One of the most important things to poetry in me is resonance. What poetry means to me is it's like you take this piece of yourself and you pull it out and you push it out and you refine it, and then someone else sees the ways that that resonates with them, and there's this connection. Poetry is it's like the glue that holds a community together. It ties us all together in this really interesting way. When you go to a poetry show, you might do something like, I do a poem about addiction, and every single time I do it, I've had someone come up to me and say, hey, I'm this far along, or hey, I'm this far along, or hey, I'm considering entering a program. And we form these connections. Poetry is like art that is also a conversation, and it becomes that, I guess.
It's beautiful to tell a story in a place where people don't look like you, but they connect with you, because that's what it means to be human. That's what it means to be a human being. We all share so many stories, and our stories bump into each other in so many places. And that is what poetry has done for me. That is how poetry has saved my life.